Afternoon, folks. Thought I'd add a bit more ramblage on a topic that I at least find very interesting, and that being the idea of text setting in music and the use of music to convey the affects of a text. And I know I've been boring you to death with lots of discussion, lots of talking about the Bach chorales, but I'm going to do some more because they're just so good. There's lots of wonderful examples, and the ones I want to focus today on one, Ach wie flüchtig, ach wie nichtig, or Ach wie nichtig, ach wie flüchtig. I have it both ways in the sources that I have and know of. Only one setting of that particular chorale tune, and then I wanted to talk a little bit in comparison and in relation to another hymn tune, Herzliebster Jesu, was du verbrochen hast, I believe it is. And I'll translate these in a few minutes, where there are several settings of these, but all very interesting. But I wanted to talk a little one today about, well, the concept of stuff that isn't there, or at least isn't there a whole lot, but nevertheless is, because of its non-existence or only very quick existences in a piece of music, can nonetheless be reflective of the affect of the text. Okay, and as I've said, and like I said, I'll do two of these, and I want to talk first a little bit about Ach wie flüchtig, ach wie nichtig. And I will read a bit of the German as well as the English translation. First, the German, one or two verses of that. Ach wie flüchtig, ach wie nichtig ist des Menschen Leben. Wie ein Nebel bald entsteht und bald wiederum vergeht. So ist unser Leben, sehet. And the second verse is, Ach wie nichtig, ach wie flüchtig sind der Menschen Tage, wie ein Strom beginnt zu rinnen und mit Laufen nicht hält innen, so fährt unsere Zeit von hinnen. And the English translations of that are, the first verse is, Oh, how cheating, oh, how fleeting is our earthly being. 'Tis a mist of wintry weather, gathered in an hour together and soon dispersed in ether. The second verse goes like this. Oh, how cheating, oh, how fleeting. Oh, how cheating, oh, how fleeting are our days departing, like a deep and headlong river, flowing onward, flowing ever, tarrying not, and staying never. So the affect of this can be summed up essentially as follows. Life's short. Life is real short, and it's gone in an instant. And I've posted the music to these in the discussion below, so you can actually see the music. But this one, Ach wie flüchtig and Ach wie nichtig, it makes very, 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 very sparing use of secondary dominants and secondary functions. And in fact, in the first four measures, and again, you'll have to look at the music to see what I'm talking about. There's only one secondary chord there, and it's on the third beat, or the first half of the third beat of the third measure, where you have an F sharp, A, C, and D. Basically this sonority. Make sure I've got this on right. Right, which is an inverted secondary chord in that particular instance. And it's only there for half a beat, and then it's gone. And the other thing I wanted to point out was also kind of interesting. Another very, very, very quick appearance of a secondary dominant. Again, an inverted secondary dominant. This is on the first beat of the last measure of the chorale, where you have D sharp, A, F sharp, and B. Basically like that. Going to a 5 chord. That's the only other place where secondary dominants are heard and seen in this. And so, out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, out of the 40 beats of that particular passage, 1.5. There's only 1.5 beats where secondary dominants appear. So they're very, very fleeting. They're here and gone very quickly. Also, I think kind of interesting is the in measures 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. You have cadences in different keys. Like there's a cadence on D in measure 6, and that D chord immediately, that one chord in D immediately turns into a 5 chord of G. A 5 chord. Excuse me. It becomes a 5 chord of G, right? Which goes on into C major. And then that C major chord of measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 immediately becomes an F. Becomes the dominant of the next F chord. So those dominant chords immediately turn, or those tonic chords immediately turn into dominant chords of the next key. So it's very fleeting, very quickly changing functions. And I think that's really rather interesting. I think it's interesting. Okay, so the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, and again, as I've said before, I've left there are videos of this music in the discussion, is Herzliebster Jesu. Herzliebster Jesu actually has 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 4 different settings that Bach made. And Herzliebster Jesu, was du verbrochen. I want to talk a little bit about this. And this one, and this particular setting of this particular tune, or this particular hymn, a particular chorale. A chorale is basically a Lutheran hymn tune. Has a lot more secondaries in it. And it's the German goes, Herzliebster Jesu, was hast du verbrochen, dass man ein solch scharf Urteil hat gesprochen? Was ist die Schuld? In was miese Taten bist du geraten? Du wirst gereißelt, the second verse goes, und mit Dorn gekrönet, in Angesicht geschlagen und verhöhnet. Du wirst excuse me, I should have rehearsed this one better. Du wirst mit Eisig und mit Gall ertränket und Kreuz gehängt. So, sorry, that's a little sloppy reading, but the English translation is as follows. Alas, dear Lord, what law hast thou broken, that such sharp sentence should on thee be spoken? Of what great crime hast thou to make confession? What dark transgression? They crown his head with thorns, they smite, they scourge him. With cruel mockings to the cross they urge him. They give him gall to drink, they loud decry him. They crucify him. So, very dark text. And this particular setting is full. Well, there's a lot more secondary harmony in this one. Like, for instance, In the first the pick up the first beat is a 5/7 of 1, and then on the second beat you have a fully diminished thing of F sharp, right? So you have lots and lots and lots of chromatic harmony in this particular one. Lots of secondary dominants and lots of secondary leading tone chords in this. And as many of you no doubt know, those kinds of chords, like particularly fully, like diminished seventh chords, are very often used in silent movies and as well in other places to depict pain, depict suffering, depict sharpness. And I think this is particularly apt in this setting and in this situation where Christ is being led off to Golgotha to be crucified with nails and ropes and meet a very unpleasant end. And this particular one is chock full of this kind of secondary chromatic harmony. So the point of the matter is this, is that sometimes you can use a lot to reinforce the idea of constant unbearable pain. And then sometimes you can use very little to suggest it's only very, very, very quickly and then it's gone. Life is short and then it's over. Secondaries just briefly there and then gone. Suffering for hours and hours and hours on end. Constant use of chromatic harmony, secondary dominants, and secondary leadings. So the same types of harmony can be used in different ways to create different effects. Yeah, which I think is kind of interesting, and again, I don't for 1 minute suggest that I'm the first person in the whole world to notice this. But I happen to think that this might be worth, the occasional people thinking about, especially if you're thinking about like being a songwriter or composing music for words. This kind of thing is worth thinking about. And I'm going to be putting a few more of these up on the web occasionally, and I may even run a class fairly soon on Patreon on the ins and outs, as I understand them and have seen them, of writing songs, writing music for words, because it's really quite fascinating what happens. Okay, anyway, so that's it for now. I hope that helps. Have a listen, have a look, and I will chat with you very soon about this topic as well as other topics of interest and general things I just feel like talking about. Oh, and one other thing. For chromatic harmony, I think one of the best examples of chromatic harmony is a little piece by Willie Nelson called Crazy. That is full of chromatic harmony, very similar to this. So if you get a chance to, it's not really a place to quote it here, but if you're looking for a good example of popular music and usage of chromatic harmony, Crazy by Willie Nelson is a really good place to start. Okay, that's it for now. Hope you're well, and I will talk with you soon.